Hello everyone, my name's Kat. I'm happy to welcome you to the virtual work experience session. I'm glad to have you. The session will be taking place by Andrew Stainton of the University of Sheffield. Just to let you know, during the session, if you have any questions, if you just click the Q&A section on the right hand side, it'd be great if you could just pop those questions in the chat. And I'll hand you over to Andrew now.
Hi everybody, as Kat said, I'm Andrew Stainton. I currently work for the University of Sheffield, and this is a short presentation about the benefits and other issues related to virtual work experience. So I'm going to have to keep asking Laura to just move the slides along. So if you can move to the first slide, please, Laura. So yeah, as I said, my name's Andrew Stainton. I work in an employability role for the University of Sheffield. I've spent a lot of years working in higher education. I've also worked at the University of Huddersfield. Prior to working in higher education, I worked in the recruitment industry. So I've got a lot of experience in terms of working with employers, working with students, and trying to help students and graduates develop the kind of experience they need to establish the careers that they want. So what we're going to cover in this session, we're going to look at the different types of virtual work experience and explain what we mean when we talk about virtual work experience. Be honest about the good and the bad aspects of those, or the positives and negatives. Look at some of the main providers who offer virtual experience and where to look for opportunities. Give you some tips if you take on a virtual internship or placement in terms of making the most of it. And then we've got time to answer any questions that you might have later on. Okay, so if you can move to the next slide, please, Laura. So when we're talking about virtual work experience, what we're talking about really is a way of doing work experience with an employer, which is basically done either digitally or remotely rather than in person. And obviously, with the whole pandemic, it's suddenly become a much bigger thing than it used to be. And there are different ways to gain this kind of virtual experience, which I will talk through. The first being from providers who, through online platforms where you register with the site and you do the work and upload it through the platform. There's an opportunity to do work from home projects where you do more of a real world project, but you're based at your home from your own laptop or computer. Some placement internships, particularly those that took place from the summer onwards, have switched to virtual and remote working. And there's also university projects. So I'm going to briefly go through each of these and just outline what's involved and how you might be able to get involved. So if you can move to the next slide, please, Laura. So I guess you've come along to this session because you're curious about virtual work experience. You may already be thinking it's a good thing to do. So just to try and put things in a little bit of context, why you might want to consider taking on some kind of a virtual work experience. Obviously, we're all in a situation that none of us could have predicted with regards to the jobs market and the student experience opportunities that are out there. So there's some stats on the slide here. The ISE is the Institute for Student Employers, and that's the representative body for the main graduate recruiters in the UK. And they've found that of their members, who are the main graduate recruiters in the UK, there's been a 25% drop in those offering short internships and almost a 30% drop in those offering placements. On top of that, the Centre for Retail Research has found that over 125,000 jobs in the retail sector have been lost this year. And obviously the retail area is often where students gain part-time work, which can be a really valuable way to develop transferable skills and experience. So you may have personal experience of not being able to find work or of having lost a role. On top of that, there's predictions of things not getting better anytime soon, with the Bank of England predicting unemployment to peak at 7.7% next April. And again, going back to the IEC, they've reported that their members are receiving on average 60 applicants per role. So there's obviously a shortage of opportunities and an increased competition for those that do exist. So when you are in a position where you're applying for graduate roles or placements, what's going to become more and more the norm is for you to be asked the question, how did you make the most of your time during lockdown, or how did you adapt to the situation during lockdown? How did you what did you do to develop yourself during that period? It's going to be something that recruiters ask and look for to show that candidates have been proactive and adaptable and not just just waited for things to get better. So there's lots of reasons why it's important to look at this as a way of perhaps addressing any of the gaps that have been left in your CV as a consequence of the pandemic and not being able to get more conventional period to work experience. So if you could move on to the next slide, Laura, please. Another point, just to give this, try and apply a few more facts here. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with Rate My Placement. They're one of the main providers in terms of advertising undergraduate internships, placements, and work experience opportunities. They did a survey of students who undertook some kind of virtual work experience over the summer. They had over 500 people submit a review, and the vast majority, 92%, said they would recommend the virtual internship they did to a friend, and the reviews that they were getting were generally positive. So again, it shows that these are not things that haven't got benefit and value. There were some negatives around the aspects of things like networking and social events, which I guess stands to reason that you don't get that to the same extent with a virtual experience. But there were high ratings around getting an understanding of the business culture. So there's some positives about them there. If you could move on to the next slide, Laura, please. So the first area we'll talk about briefly are online platforms. And these are where you register with a site and then you basically submit to do a project that's advertised through the site and submit the work that you do through the platform. So these are generally what we refer to as simulated tasks rather than actual real projects. So you're doing work related to an industry or a role, but it might not be just something that you uniquely are doing like you would perhaps if you were doing a real world placement. But what these allow you to do is to get the chance to get a bit of a taste for the nature of the work for a particular sector, get insight to a role, whether it's something you do enjoy doing or something whether you're good at or not. Now, even prior to the pandemic, the legal sector was basically already offering these kind of online opportunities because for those wanting to get legal work experience, it's always has been incredibly competitive. So they sort of been proactive in terms of looking at ways to provide these. And the legal sector is probably one of the main areas where these kind of online opportunities exist. But there's now opportunities in a wider range of areas. Marketing is a big area, particularly obviously digital marketing, consultancy, and also some in areas like science and engineering. Now, the great thing about these is they are open access. So in effect, anybody can do them, whether you're a first year or whether you've graduated. They are a way for you to basically have a go and take these on. You don't usually have to apply and be selected for the opportunity. And from the employer's point of view, I'm not saying they all do this, but it does allow them to review the quality of the work that you submit and potentially use that as a recruitment tool to identify people with the most potential to offer a more substantive in-person opportunity when that's available. For you as a student or graduate, it's obviously a way for you to add some content to your CV, develop skills, and also what it does is it shows you to be genuinely interested in a particular industry. Yeah, and it shows that you've been proactive in actually doing things that you don't have to do as part of your course. On the downside, some of the feedback I've received from students is that it can feel a little bit more like an online training course rather than actual work. And I have to say that I had a go at doing a virtual internship myself just to get a sense of it in the summer. And that was a little bit my experience. I felt it was good experience, but it didn't quite feel exactly like a real world task. But the fact that it's delivered online and it's flexible about when you do it means it's much more accessible and flexible. So it's opening up opportunities to a much broader range of students. Now, are these kind of opportunities as good as doing a real internship? In all honesty, no, they're not. But are they a good way to do the kinds of things I mentioned here? Get some insight to an industry, try the kind of work out, have the name of an employer on your CV, and start to fill some gaps, then definitely they are something well worth considering. Could you move to the next slide, Laura, please? So the main provider, I mean, there is one organisation which has really sort of cornered the market in this, and it's called, well, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't actually know how you pronounce it. I would call that Forage, but I'm from West Yorkshire, and you guys might call it Forage. I don't know. But anyway, that's what it is. It's either Forage or Forage. You know, you say potato, I say potato kind of thing. Now, you may have done some of these yourself, and this company changed its name in the summer, and it used to be called Inside Sherpa, much easier to pronounce. So these guys offer free, they're totally free, and they're open to all, and that's probably the most positive thing to say. It's not going to cost you anything. Most of the opportunities on there at the minute do not take a particularly long time to do. Some of them are just saying it takes about 5 to 6 hours to complete. And you don't have to do that in one go. You can dip in and out of it, but some are longer than that. And they're all linked to specific employers. So with the legal sector, there's some real high-profile organisations from some Magic Circle law firms, White and Case, Clifford Chance, Kennedy's. So quite prestigious organisations who are partnering with them. In the tech sector, there's opportunities with Goldman Sachs, KPMG, and they're offering roles around things like data analytics and software engineering. Then there's roles in finance and banking with organisations like Citigroup and JP Morgan. Then you've got consulting roles with the likes of KPMG, Boston Consulting Group, Accenture, Deloitte. And then there's also roles on there currently for things like HR, digital marketing, engineering, and there's also things that are more broadly around social change. So they have a real variety of opportunities on that platform, and there's no obvious drawback because it is free and accessible to all. Again, could you move to the next slide, please, Laura? Now, there are other providers who offer these kind of opportunities. And if you went on to a site like Rate My Placement, they link to some of them on their site. And there's just a screenshot there from the Rate My Placement website I went on to last week, and it currently had 57 virtual experiences on there. Now, some of those are the roles with Forage, but there are also other providers on there who I've not name checked because they actually charge you for the opportunity to do it with them. Okay, now it's a personal decision whether you are happy to do that and you feel they offer something different. But I wouldn't feel comfortable endorsing things which you're having to pay to do. But you can, if you just simply Google virtual internships, or you look on sites like Rate My Placement, you will see other providers who offer these kind of online opportunities. Do you move to the next slide, please, Laura? So that's online platforms. So the other way, or one of the other ways of getting some kind of virtual work experience is a work from home project, okay? So in a very short period of time, the world of work has obviously changed completely, you know, certainly since April. Meetings, the way that we collaborate with one another at work, it's all switched to online has been the norm, yeah? And what that has mean in terms of the positive side of it is it has opened up opportunities to you guys as students or graduates that you maybe couldn't do previously because of where you're based and because of the restrictions on your time due to being a student or having another part-time job to earn some money. So the fact that you can do an awful lot of work from home and do the work and more flexible at times to suit you has the potential to open up opportunities which didn't actually exist before the pandemic. Effectively, you can work anywhere, certainly anywhere in the UK and potentially anywhere in the wider world from your own bedroom. So there are roles out there with businesses and charities which allow you to do these kind of projects from home without having to leave the house. Now, there's different ways of identifying these, but one obvious thing is through volunteering roles. The volunteering sector with charities and social enterprise have been really hit with the pandemic in terms of the fundraising that they can do and the amount of money that they've got coming in. And the fact that they've had to furlough a lot of staff has made it really, really difficult. So they are often looking for volunteers to take on quite professional roles to support their organisations. Now, there is a national volunteering website, which you may or may not be familiar with, called Do It. But there are lots of other websites where you can find these kind of roles. But I went onto the Do It website last week. And basically the search I did was I searched for Do It From Home, which is what they're looking for with remote working. And I went into the advanced search function, and you can put in the kind of work you're looking for. And there were work from home opportunities suitable for students in the areas I put on the screen there. So graphic design, events and digital marketing, PR, content writing, data analytical roles, finance and accountancy. Now, all these kind of roles will work which you would do from home using your own PC or laptop, and were flexible around the sort of when you completed it, usually looking for a commitment, maybe about 5 hours a week. But the difference here, these are genuine projects. So it could be around, whether it's around any of those areas. So rather than something like an online platform, this is you actually doing a real job with real deadlines and requirements. So it's probably taking this to another level. If you can move to the next screen, please, Laura. Now, there's also another online platform called Project Set, which advertises kind of work from home projects. Now, Project Set are different to Forage in that they tend to be more with less well-known organisations, so SMEs, and they do require you to apply and be selected for the role. And these tend to be longer than the Forage roles, so these are probably taking several weeks, and some are paid and some are unpaid. And they've got roles currently, when I looked on the site, in business development, social media marketing, and software development. Okay, so that's another avenue to look at in terms of doing a project working from home. Can you move to the next slide, Laura, please? Now, the other area is around projects which your university provides or offers to you. Okay, now these could be something which is done as part of a module, in curricular, or as an extracurricular project, where the university sources projects to allow its students to gain experience working from home. And this is something I've been working on at the University of Sheffield, and we've had a lot of interest from students because these projects have allowed them to do work that fits around their studies, but take on genuine piece of work that interests them and to develop their skills. And there might be things that you can do over the summer or during term time. Now, I think this kind of thing is a potential way for university to try and help make up for the really, massively affected student experience if you're a current student you're facing at university. So many things have kind of like not been allowed to happen. So if your university isn't offering these kind of projects, if you are a current student, then I would be asking the questions as to why, or if they can do this, because students have got contacts with industry, they've got experts in terms of working around placements and internships, and it just takes a little bit of imagination to see how these could be created to help students work from home. And what you could do is you could approach the student union at the university that you're at, or if there are course reps for your course or department, speak to them about how this could be raised with your department or student staff committees. For those of you who are current students, you need to understand that you have a lot of influence, and universities are really desperate to do what they can to maintain student satisfaction. And this could be a way of doing it, providing opportunities with the links that universities have got. And it's something we've done at Sheffield. And if your university wants to speak to us about how we've done it, then they're more than welcome to contact me. So if you could move on to the next slide, Laura, please. Now, just very briefly, as well as virtual internships and work experience, there are other ways you can develop your skill set and show yourself to be proactive and engaged in learning about a particular industry. And another thing that's really developed during the pandemic is the availability of online courses, which anybody can do. Now, this isn't university learn, this is much more of a skills-based, short courses around specific skills. And some of the providers on there, FutureLearn, which is a partnership with universities throughout the UK and internationally, OpenLearn, which is a platform run by the Open University, LinkedIn Learning, which I'm sure some of you are aware of, which is obviously run by LinkedIn. edX is an international university project offering open online courses, and then Google offer training online through their digital garage. And there are courses you can do which are free, fully flexible, some taking a few hours, some taking several weeks, and you get a certification at the end of it. And then all those areas on the screen are areas which you can do short courses, whether it's on business, creative and the arts, healthcare and medicine, computer science, languages, law. And again, it's another way of showing that you've been proactive during the lockdown and done something about professional development. And if you could just move to the next slide, Laura. And what I've done on this slide is just mocked up a student CV. And I've taken an example here of a sociology student who, at the start of the summer, knew she wanted to work in the digital marketing area, but had no experience at all. And over the short period of time, over 6 months, has developed the experience that's demonstrated on that slide there. So she's done a virtual internship through Forage. She's gone out and secured a work from home project with a local hospice in their marketing teams as a campaign volunteer. And then she's done a digital marketing course with Google, and then done a number of future learn courses. Yeah. So you can see that by not having to leave her home, she's gone from being somebody who just had non-relevant work experience and really not a massively related degree to turning herself into a really credible candidate by taking advantage of what she can do basically on an online platform. So if you can move forward again. So just coming to the end of the session, in terms of ways you can make the most of virtual work experience, my advice would be to use sites like Forage to fill the gaps in your CV and develop skills, and then look for a virtual internship or project. And if you get the opportunity to do that, make sure that you take advantage of any training that you have the opportunity to do. If you're working with other people, try and get involved in the online chats and networking to raise your profile. Don't be afraid to ask questions and look for feedback. Try and work on things like your time management, because if you're doing it to fit around your studies, that's going to be imperative. Make notes about what you've achieved so you can update your CV and really take advantage of the experience that you've gained. So that, if you could move on to the last slide, Laura, please. That's the end of the content from me, but we now have got the opportunity, if you have any questions at all, to put them in the chat function, and I will do my best working with Kat to answer any questions that you might have.
We have had a question, and that's great. Sam says, how would you compare the quality of applicable skills learned in a virtual work experience versus in person?
I think it is difficult to compare the two, Sam. I mean, as I said, at the start, I don't think a virtual internship is the same thing, but it sometimes it's a case of doing what you can, and they're much easier to do. So it's good, but it's probably not quite as good, if I'm honest with you. No, and you probably don't get the same in-person feedback doing a virtual internship as you would if you're working alongside a colleague in the office.
Definitely something that's worthwhile doing given the circumstances.
Yeah.
So Sarah has asked, please could you give an example of the types of projects your students are doing at the University of Sheffield?
Yeah, I mean, I work in the social sciences faculty. So we've tried to find opportunities that are of relevance to our students. So some of them have been research projects. Quite a lot have been around marketing projects. We've had a group of students working with the local council on a logistics and planning project around getting ready for Brexit. We've had people work on PR. Data analytical roles, because we have quite a lot of students doing information science. We have had one student who's doing a finance related role, but I would say the biggest area which lends itself to this kind of role are marketing, research, and content development. Those have been the areas where we've found the most interest from students and opportunities that employers have been able to offer.
We have another one from John. Do you have to pay, as some companies ask for payment from candidates? Is this advisable?
Well, the reason I didn't mention any of the companies who ask you to pay is, personally, I don't feel very comfortable with that, and I think there are ways that you can do this kind of experience without having to pay. I think it's bad enough not being paid, but to have to pay to actually do it is a little bit much. And I think some of the providers who charge, I think they maybe they talk about maybe offering certification and things like that, but you do get a certificate if you do one of the projects with Forage. So really, they're making their money, Forage, through the companies are paying to put on their platform. So they're paying, which I think is the right way around to do it. It comes down to personal choice, though. If you can afford to do it, and there's an opportunity which you have to pay for, and it's unique, then it's a personal choice. But it wouldn't be something I would be actively encouraging people to do, because I think there is a lot of opportunities which don't require any cost on your part. I mean, one of the big plus points of online experience is you don't also incur any costs. You don't have to travel to the workplace. You don't have to relocate. So it is a little bit of a leveling up a little bit, and it's really difficult to see positives during the pandemic, and it's just maybe one sort of slight positive that has happened as a consequence of it, and it hopefully will continue when things come back to normal. That there is still that opportunity for people to work a little bit remotely, so they don't have to move to London if they're not from London in order to take up opportunities which are centred around certain areas.
One last question. Do you have any recommendations about where to look for virtual internships for arts and humanities students, for example, publishing?
I think with publishing, it's obviously a really competitive area. So you probably won't find publishing internships on sites like Forage that I mentioned. I think what I would be inclined to do if I was looking at, getting some experience in the publishing industry is make direct contact with some of the publishing houses around the UK. And the advantage of the lockdown is what you need to do is to present to them what skills you can offer, what you're good at, and give them examples of how you can actually do this working from home. So I think that's probably more realistic. I think if the other thing you could do is you could speak to your university, see if they've got any connections with publishing organisations who may be able to provide opportunities. But I think rather than looking on a website to see an opportunity with a publishing organisation, I'd be being more proactive and contacting them with your CV, but being clear about what you can do, what you're good at, and even if the work you got they offered you to do was around something like helping with social media, with doing sort of just kind of like routine admin tasks, don't be too bothered about the nature of the work. I think if you can get some experience with a publishing house, no matter what it is that they do or where they are, then that's the best way to make a start. The other thing is, if you haven't got much work experience in publishing, it might be strategically a good idea to get some other work experience to make yourself look more employable, and then contact some publishing organisations. But it is a difficult area to get into. So rather than waiting to see things being advertised, I would try and contact people more speculatively.
Great. We're short of time, but we've also got a very last quick question. That if you're not sure what to do exactly after graduating, how should you approach virtual work experience? Can you answer that in 20 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the bottom line is all experience is good experience, really. So I would just have, and if you don't know what you want to do some of these online courses, because they're free, and you might actually enjoy doing it, or you might hate it. But either way, it gives you a bit of better idea of actually what you might be good at or what you might want to do. And if you do some kind of a work from home project, again, if it's quite broad, you'll find that the skills are transferable. So if you get an experience, it's not going to do you any harm. And it's just a learning process in terms of figuring out actually what am I good at, what do I enjoy doing, and where are the opportunities going forward.
Great. Thank you very much for your time, Andrew.
Thank you. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.